World War II ended in 1945. But for some of the perpetrators behind the Nazi regime, justice never came, or came far too late. In this video, we uncover the shocking stories of former Nazis who escaped prosecution, lived in peace for decades, and died in old age, some even celebrating their 100th birthday. These aren't just forgotten footnotes of history. They are the ghosts of a system that allowed mass murderers to vanish into suburbia, and sometimes thrive. Josef Mengele died at 67. Josef Mengele, the Angel of Death from Auschwitz, was a Nazi doctor involved in horrific medical experiments at the Auschwitz concentration camp. His name has become synonymous with cruelty and inhumanity due to his role in the torture and experimentation on prisoners, including children and twins. Mengele conducted disturbing research on twins, attempting to understand how genetics influenced human development. He performed surgical procedures without anesthesia, often without the consent of the victims. He also experimented with injecting chemicals into the eyes of prisoners in an attempt to change their eye color. In addition, Mengele was known for his role in euthanasia, selecting individuals to be sent to the gas chambers. In 1945, as the Soviet army advanced toward the camp, Mengele fled to South America, avoiding capture. He settled in Argentina, living under false documents for several years before moving to Paraguay and later Brazil, where he lived for many years under assumed identities. Despite being one of the most sought-after Nazi criminals, Mengele was never captured. He died in 1979 at the age of 67 in Brazil. He drowned, and his identity was officially confirmed only years later. In 1985, his remains were exhumed, and tests confirmed that they were indeed those of Mengele. Gustav Wagner died at 69. Gustav Wagner was one of the most notorious Nazi war criminals, serving as the deputy commandant of the Sobibor concentration camp. After the war, he managed to evade justice and lived a long life without ever facing trial. Wagner played a central role in orchestrating the mass killings at Sobibor, where more than 250,000 people were murdered. He personally took part in executing prisoners and oversaw various forms of torture and executions. One of the most well-known events linked to him was the Sobibor prisoner uprising in 1943. Although a number of inmates successfully escaped, Wagner was involved in violently suppressing the revolt. After the camp was dismantled in 1943, Wagner fled to Germany. Realizing he couldn't remain in Europe safely, he eventually made his way to South America. By the 1950s, he had settled in Brazil under a false identity, using the name Gustav Vogel. Despite his efforts to remain hidden, Wagner was eventually discovered and arrested in Brazil in 1978. In 1979, he was extradited to West Germany to stand trial. However, he never made it to court. In 1980, Gustav Wagner died by suicide at his home in Brazil, a year after the Brazilian government denied his extradition to face trial for war crimes. Klaus Barbie died at 77. Klaus Barbie, an SS and Gestapo officer, earned the nickname the Butcher of Leon for his brutal actions during World War II. He later became a symbol of post-war impunity, spending years in hiding in South America under the protection of intelligence agencies. In 1942, Barbie was stationed in France, where he became the head of the Gestapo in Lyon, a major hub of the French resistance. He personally oversaw the arrest, interrogation, and torture of hundreds of resistance members. One of his most notorious crimes was organizing the deportation of Jewish children from a shelter in Izio, 44 children and 7 adults, who were later murdered at Auschwitz. In total, Barbie was responsible for the suffering and deaths of over 4,000 people. One of his infamous trophies was the arrest of Jean Moulin, a key leader of the French resistance, whom Barbie tortured to death. After the war, Barbie was captured by American forces, but was soon released. The US employed him as an informant during the early years of the Cold War, using his knowledge in operations against the Soviet Union. With American help, he escaped to South America via one of the so-called rat lines, receiving a new passport and identity as Klaus Altmann. He settled in Bolivia, where he became a military advisor and even helped suppress local uprisings. It wasn't until 1983, following a change in the Bolivian government, that Klaus Barbie was extradited to France. In 1987, he stood trial in Lyon, the very city where he had committed his crimes. He was convicted of crimes against humanity and sentenced to life in prison. Throughout the trial, Barbie remained unrepentant, holding firm to his Nazi beliefs until the end. He died of cancer in prison in 1991 at the age of 77. Gerhard Bohner died at 79. Gerhard Bohner was a Nazi legal expert who played a pivotal role in legitimizing the Third Reich's euthanasia program, known as Action T4, a systematic campaign to exterminate people with mental and physical disabilities. Despite his involvement in mass murder, Bohner escaped serious punishment and lived to the age of 79. Starting in the late 1930s, Bohner was deeply involved in developing the legal framework for the euthanasia initiative, which officially began in 1939. Action T4 was a covert Nazi operation aimed at eliminating so-called unfit citizens, including the mentally ill, the disabled, and children with developmental disorders. Over 70,000 people were killed in specialized clinics using gas chambers, lethal injections, and starvation. Bohner helped draft the legal structures that allowed the program to operate within the Nazi bureaucracy. He was responsible for formulating procedures, instructions, and bureaucratic pathways to make the killings appear lawful under Reich administration. In 1945, Bohner was arrested but avoided long-term imprisonment. In 1963, he was tried in West Germany for his role in the T4 program. Despite the gravity of the charges, he received only a 4-year prison sentence and was released just months later due to claimed health issues. The leniency of his punishment sparked public outrage and became a symbol of West Germany's failure to fully reckon with its Nazi past. After his release, Bohner lived a quiet life in West Germany. He died in 1981 at the age of 79, having never truly been held accountable for his role in the mass murder of thousands of vulnerable people. Alois Brunner died at 89. Alois Brunner, one of Adolf Eichmann's closest aides and a key figure in the implementation of the Holocaust, was responsible for the deportation and death of more than 100,000 Jews. Despite the scale of his crimes, he managed to escape justice and lived for decades under the protection of authoritarian regimes. A committed member of the Nazi Party and the SS, Brunner became a central figure in the Gestapo's Jewish Affairs Department, working directly under Eichmann. In cities like Vienna, Paris, Bratislava, and Thessaloniki, he oversaw mass arrests, property seizures, and the deportation of Jews to extermination camps. In France alone, around 24,000 Jews were deported under his command, most of whom were murdered. Known for his extreme brutality and fanatical devotion to Nazi ideology, Brunner never expressed remorse. In fact, he once said he only regretted not having finished the job. After the war, Brunner escaped using false papers under the name Alois Schmidt. He initially fled to Egypt, then settled in Syria. In Damascus, he lived for decades under the protection of Hafez al-Assad's regime, reportedly serving as an advisor to Syrian intelligence. Both Israel and West Germany repeatedly demanded his extradition, but the Syrian government either denied his presence or refused to cooperate. The Israeli intelligence agency Mossad made 2 known assassination attempts using letter bombs. In 1961, one bomb cost him an eye. In 1980, another destroyed several fingers. Despite these attacks, Brunner continued to live in Damascus under the alias Georg Fischer, rarely leaving his residence. His exact date of death remained uncertain for years. According to the Simon Wiesenthal Center and various intelligence sources, Alois Brunner likely died in Syria around 2001, possibly at the age of 89. A former French intelligence officer later revealed that Brunner spent his final years in poverty, near madness, and total isolation, never once repenting for his role in one of history's greatest atrocities. Helmut Oberlander died at 97. Helmut Oberlander was a member of a Nazi Einsatzgruppe, mobile killing squads that operated in the Soviet Union during World War II. After the war, he emigrated to Canada and became a respected businessman, concealing his past. His story became one of Canada's most high-profile legal sagas related to Nazi war crimes. Born in 1924 in Halberstadt, now Ukraine, to a family of ethnic Germans, Oberlander was recruited at the age of 17 as a translator for Einsatzkommando 10A, a unit within Einsatzgruppe D. This group was responsible for mass shootings of civilians in southern areas of the USSR, including Jews, Roma, and communists. Oberlander later claimed he only translated and did not participate in executions. However, historians have disputed this, noting his continuous presence alongside the unit during their genocidal operations. The Einsatzgruppen were responsible for killing approximately 1.5 million people, predominantly Jews, in what has been termed the Holocaust by bullets. EK-10 ORHI-A operated in southern Ukraine, Crimea, and the Caucasus. While there is no direct evidence that Oberlander personally fired a weapon, his active involvement in supporting the unit's activities, including liaising with local populations, makes his complicity clear. In 1954, Oberlander immigrated to Canada, concealing his past. He gained citizenship in the 1960s and became a successful construction businessman. He led an exemplary life in Canada, with a family and the reputation of a respected citizen. In the 1990s, as Canada intensified its efforts to identify former Nazi collaborators, Oberlander came under investigation. In 2000, a court ruled that he had obtained citizenship fraudulently by hiding his role in the Nazi death squads. From that point on, his citizenship was revoked 4 times, but he successfully appealed each decision. In 2017, the Canadian government renewed deportation proceedings, but Oberlander continued to fight the case through legal channels. He died on September 22, 2021, at the age of 97 in Canada, never having been extradited or formally convicted. His death sparked outrage from Jewish organizations, including the Simon Wiesenthal Center, which had campaigned for years for his deportation and prosecution. Erich Priebke died at 100. Erich Priebke was an SS captain known for his role in the mass execution of 335 Italians in the Ardeatine caves in 1944. After the war, he fled to Argentina, where he lived for over half a century under his real name. His exposure and extradition became an international sensation. During World War II, he served in the Gestapo in Rome, under SS commander Herbert Kappler. He was one of the organizers and direct participants in the mass execution of Italian civilians, mostly hostages, in retaliation for an attack by Italian partisans on a German patrol. On March 24, 1944, 335 people were executed in the Ardeatine caves near Rome in response to the killing of 33 German soldiers. Priebke helped compile the execution lists, coordinated the killings, and personally shot hostages. The murders were meticulously planned. The victims were shot in the back of the head to save bullets and time. His signature appears on the official report of the completed operation. After the war, he escaped from a British POW camp and used the so-called rat lines to emigrate to Argentina. He lived in the city of San Carlos de Bariloche under his real name, worked at a German school, and even gave interviews. For decades he remained out of public view until, in 1994, a journalist from American network ABC interviewed him. In the interview, Priebke showed no remorse and openly admitted his role in the executions. The interview sparked public outrage, and Italy requested his extradition. In 1995, Priebke was deported to Rome, where he stood trial. In 1998, he was sentenced to life imprisonment. However, due to his advanced age and health condition, he served his sentence under house arrest in a private apartment in central Rome. Until his death, he remained a supporter of Nazi ideology and claimed he was just following orders. He died on October 11, 2013, at the age of 100, unrepentant. After his death, the Catholic Church refused to hold a funeral service, and protests disrupted the burial. His burial site was kept secret to prevent it from becoming a neo-Nazi pilgrimage site. Gregor Formanek died at 101. Gregor Formanek was a former guard at the Sachsenhausen concentration camp, accused of being complicit in the murder of more than 3,300 prisoners. His death at the age of 100 in April 2025 marked, for many, the symbolic end of an era of legal reckoning with Nazi war criminals. Born on September 18, 1924, in Arad, present-day Romania, Formanek came from a German-speaking family. His father was a tailor. In July 1943, he joined the SS and was assigned to Sachsenhausen, a concentration camp located just outside Berlin. He served there until February 1945 and was accused of involvement in the deliberate and brutal killings of thousands of inmates. After the war, Formanek was captured by the Soviet Red Army and, in 1947, was convicted by a Soviet military tribunal of crimes against humanity and espionage. He was sentenced to 25 years in prison, but served only 10 years at the Bautzen prison before being released in 1957. Following his release, Formanek lived quietly in Germany under his real name. His Nazi past remained largely unknown to those around him for decades. In 2023, investigative journalists uncovered his identity and current whereabouts, living in a suburb of Frankfurt, which led to a renewed criminal investigation into his wartime activities. In August 2023, German prosecutors formally charged Formanek with accessory to the murder of over 3,300 people at Sachsenhausen. In June 2024, a court in Hanau ruled him unfit to stand trial due to health reasons. However, this decision was overturned in December 2024 by the higher regional court in Frankfurt, which concluded that Formanek could, in fact, face trial. He died on April 2, 2025, just days before the scheduled court proceedings were set to begin. Josef Schutz died at 102. Josef Schutz was a guard at the Sachsenhausen concentration camp during World War II. In June 2022, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison at the age of 101, becoming the oldest person ever convicted of Nazi crimes. He was born on November 16, 1920, in Lithuania, into a German-speaking family. He joined the SS at a young age and served as a guard at Sachsenhausen from 1942 to 1945. He participated in the operation of the camp, where mass killings, forced labor, medical experiments, and executions took place. An estimated 100,000 people died there as a result of starvation, executions, forced labor, and medical experiments. His trial began in October 2021 in the city of Brandenburg an der Havel. Prosecutors charged him with complicity in the murders of 3,518 prisoners, including shootings, gas chamber executions, and orchestrated starvation. At trial, Schutz denied any guilt and claimed he had never served at Sachsenhausen. However, documents and witness testimony indicated otherwise. In June 2022, the court found him guilty and sentenced him to 5 years in prison. Due to his age and health, he remained free. He died in April 2023 at the age of 102 without ever serving his sentence. History doesn't forget, even when justice is delayed. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who thinks the past always stays buried. Let us know in the comments, which of these stories shocked you the most? And should these cases be reopened, if only symbolically? Thanks for watching, and remember, some truths don't age, they wait.